A big welcome to everyone for joining us today to this Language Teaching Takeoff webinar series, which focuses on making the most of the powerful tools available in the TeacherMatic Language Teaching Edition. My name is Jada, and I worked in the language education sector for the past 7 years. I'm now part of the Avalanche team, where we are committed to supporting educators with innovative and effective tools. And today we have Nik Peachey, who is hosting the webinar. And today's webinar is titled Adapting Content for Effective CEFR-Aligned Language Teaching. Nik is an award-winning educator, author, and educational technology consultant with over 30 years of experience in the field of language education. He specializes in integrating emerging technologies, including generative AI, to improve teaching and learning outcomes. But before we begin, just a few practical notes. You can submit any questions that you have using the Q&A tab that you can find here below. And we'll aim to answer as many questions as possible towards the end of the session. Also, you probably have noticed that the webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be shared via email after the event next week. So with that, let's just make a start. Thank you again for joining us today. And I will now hand you over to Nik to begin the session.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Thanks for coming along during it could be lunchtime, depending on where you are, but I know someone's just said that they're from Australia, so they're probably not having their lunch right now. As well as typing in where you're from and things like that, it'd be really useful if you could sort of also add what your job role is. If you could tell us what your job role is, because then I can maybe try and make this a bit more specific and tailored towards your role, if you like. So if you're a teacher, or if you're a director of studies, or you're a school manager or something like that, just a bit of information about who you are and the kinds of students you teach really helps a lot. Okay, I'll see if I can find and share my presentation, which always helps. I think that's the one. Okay, let's see if I can get back to it. Okay, and now I have to find the chat again so that I can see what you're saying. Just rearrange my screen a bit. Okay, we've got academic coordinators, DOS, language, great, good. Okay, DOS from London. Yeah, lots of directors of studies. That's always good to see. Okay, so this session. During this session, I'll be going through just a basic introduction to TeacherMatic and what it is. I don't know how many of you have already seen it, or whether you've been to one of these webinars before, in which case that's great, welcome back. But I'll go through it just for the benefit of anybody who might know what it is and maybe looking at it for the first time. I'll have a look at the overall range of generators just to show you some of the things that it can do. And then I'll do a kind of deep dive onto the two generators, one which is the CEFR Level Checker, and the other one which is for adapting your content and in different ways. And then at the end we can have some questions and answers. It'll be a 30-minute session, and I'll try not to go over time unless you have loads of questions, in which case I'm happy to sort of stay and answer them for as long as I can. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so basically I've been working with Avalanche and on the TeacherMatic product for quite a while now. I was originally approached by them after doing a conference in Lisbon, where I met up with Ian, who works for the organisation, and was sort of looking at how the TeacherMatic product they developed could be better steered towards ESL, EFL teaching, and how it could do a bit better job for English language teachers and schools. So we worked on it for quite a while and looked at the different generators and identified some issues, and they've really kind of put a lot of work into adapting the product so that it does fit the needs of language schools and language teachers. And that's why I'm happy to come along and do these sessions. In terms of TeacherMatic and what it is a platform, an AI-powered platform, and it has a selection of generators, what's called AI generators. There are about 40 of these different generators now. And the difference between something like TeacherMatic, for example, and ChatGPT is that if you go to ChatGPT and you want it to do something, you have to write your prompt. You write it, if you're good at prompting, you write it very carefully. It produces something for you, and then you kind of tailor it and work with it. In the case of TeacherMatic, TeacherMatic has generators that have been already pre-programmed for specific tasks. So they've got AI coding experts working behind, putting work in behind them to ensure that they can do this very specific task, and you can adapt that within the realms of your needs, and it will generate something very specific for you. And that's why, for example, the tools that I'm going to look at today, particularly the CEFR Level Checker, is such a great tool, because you can go to ChatGPT and you can ask it to produce a text for you and ask it to do it at a specific level, and it might come back with something around that level, and it might not. Whereas with TeacherMatic, the coders have put a lot of work into testing and retesting the generators to ensure they're as close as possible to the kind of level you want. Although I'm sure, as your DOSs, your teachers, you know that this CEFR leveling is also a bit vague. Somebody who's a B2 at reading might not be a B2 at writing, or might be good at listening and not so good at speaking. So there is sort of some room for kind of slippage within that rating, but we'll have a look and see how well it does in a minute. These are some examples of the generators it can produce. It can produce things like dialogue specifically for you, and again, level them, discussion topics. It can give feedback. It can produce glossaries. So there are all kinds of different generators which you can go and check out. There are about 40 of them, and they're specifically designed for English language teaching and learning, and to save time for those topics, on those topics. Okay, so let's actually click through and go and have a look at them. And now I'll click through to the site and then start looking at the ones that we're going to look through this time. Where is it going? There it is. Okay, so here we are in the site, and these are the generators now, and they're listed here. I've enlarged my screen so that you can see them a bit better. And if you want to use one, for example, you just click on the use, and it will take you to the generator. And then it has the kind of different configurable parts, things like level and things like that. This one's for creating a text. If you want more information about how to use one, there's a little eye here which you can see. And if you click on that, it'll give you some information about how to use it and how it works. So if you don't remember what happens in this webinar, you can go back afterwards and just click on that, and it'll give you some basic information. Okay, so what I'm going to start off with is this one, the CEFR Level Checker, and I'm going to click on Use. And but this is a very simple one to use. You just decide whether you want to upload a text or whether you want to copy and paste it in, and then you just click and you get your results. So very quick, very simple to use. Great for checking the level of materials you're designing for your students. Can also be great for checking your students' work that they've submitted to you. Does it actually reach the level that they're attempting to get to? I said that we were going to test it out, and so what I'd like you to do is suggest a topic that you want a text on, and suggest a level, and then I'll go to ChatGPT, I'll create a text, and then we'll come back here and test it to see if it gets the level right. But remember, it could be ChatGPT that's failing the test, or it could be TeacherMatic. So if you want to type in a text suggestion, if nobody types one in, I'll suggest one myself, and a level, just put that into the chat, and then I'll go to ChatGPT and try and get it. I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about it. What would be a good text? Social media use and benefits, level B2. Okay, seeing as that's the first one, I'm going to take that one and I'll go to ChatGPT. I'll copy paste that. See if I can find ChatGPT in my browser. Okay, new chat. I'll say, please produce a text about social media benefits at level B2 of the CEFR. Usually, if I was trying to get good results from ChatGPT, I'd actually put in Common European Framework of Reference rather than CEFR so that it leaves less room for misunderstanding. Okay, so ChatGPT is going to produce that for me now. So there it is. There's my text. The benefits of social media use. You mean there are some? Yes, there are. Okay, and we'll go back to TeacherMatic. So here's my CEFR Level Checker. I'll click paste the submitted text and I'll paste it in. And I'll click Generate and wait a few minutes. And keep my fingers crossed because you never know what's going to happen when you do these things live. Okay, so there it is. There's it's given me a complete analysis of that. Okay, so it's got overall level and according to this, ChatGPT has got it right. It's B1.2. And it gives her then a breakdown of the different features. Text demonstrates a solid command of vocabulary, grammar, suitable for intermediate learners. Okay, so it's given a breakdown, an overall breakdown there at the top. And then it does go into more complexity in terms of its breakdown. There's sort of some information about the vocabulary used in it. There's grammar analysis breakdown as well, and readability and sentence structure. Okay, so that gives you a really good breakdown and lots of information about the text. So, for example, if you were taking a text that your student had produced and putting it in there, then you could share this breakdown with them as well, particularly if they were still below the level, and that would be sort of quite informative and interesting for them. And but also it gives you information in terms of what you might need to work on with students if they're not coming up to the level, and what elements of their text is a bit light or a bit thin in terms of reaching the level. So sort of lots of useful stuff there if you just want to check the level. And again, like I say, if you're producing materials for students and you want it to be at the right level, that's again a good way to check it and to check where you need to tweak the material if you're a materials writer producing courses for your students to make sure it's the right level. Also great if you're taking authentic text, if you're going to the internet and just grabbing something and you want to make sure what level it is for your students. So kind of lots of useful things that you can do quite quickly with that. Okay, I'm going to go to the next generator now, which is this one, which is adapt your content. And what I'm going to do is click on use, and we'll have a look at this one how this one works. And again, it's designed to adapt content that's either uploaded, so you could upload a file, or you could copy and paste it in. I'm going to use the same text that I grabbed from ChatGPT, and I'll copy and paste it in again. And again, in terms of use, this is great if you've got a class that has a wide range of students and you want to adapt material. So you've got the same text, but you want to have a lower level version for weaker students, or a more demanding level one for stronger students. Then you can adapt the same text so that they're still getting the same ideas and dealing with the same content, but at a different level. And that's particularly important for, say, for example, CLIL lessons, where you're dealing with content and language integrated learning, and you want to make sure they understand the concepts, but you don't want the language to get in the way. So I've put that in here. that our text, and it was B1, B2, wasn't it? We chose. So now let's see if we can convert it, and we'll convert it to a CEFR level. Let's convert it to A1 and see how much simpler it gets. Okay, and once we've converted it to A1, I'll have a go at converting it to C2. Okay, so then what you can see now is the cut down text here. I'll see if I can make that a bit bigger on my screen so you can see it a bit better. There's the cut down text. And again, it's much simpler, using simpler, shorter sentences, and should be, reasonably understandable at a CFR1 level. And it's telling you what it's adapted here as well. So it's changed it to make it level 1. I'm going to close that now, and I'll use the same text. I'll click on Use again. Paste in the text. Again, I'm going to paste it in. And then CFR level. And this time we'll go for level C2 and regenerate it. And again, fingers crossed. So usually in your class, you probably wouldn't want that wide a variety of levels, or I hope you haven't got students who are A1 in with students who are C2. But it does happen, especially in state schools. If you're a state school teacher where, you've got students who are leveled by year, you might find that you've got a whole range of different levels within your class. So this does enable you to quickly adapt the level. And again, this is a much more complex text using much more complex vocabulary. It's also quite a bit longer. And again, it's saying how it's adapted it here. So the adaptations, vocabulary and register, it's made more difficult, more complex sentence structure, things like implied meaning, speculation, those kinds of things. So it shows you how it's adapted that. Once you've got your text as well, when you're using this, you can export it. So it gives you a choice of ways to export it. You can have it as a PDF. You can have it as Microsoft Word, so you can still edit it. It can go straight into your Google Drive, or if you're using Google Classroom, you can publish it straight to Google Classroom. So that's another handy feature. If I go back again, you'll see there are other optional things here where you click on the learner profile, you can actually describe your learners. So if, for example, you had a text about social media use and benefits, and your students aren't interested in social media, you could ask it to adapt it to a different topic. And then it could possibly adapt it so that the structure was very similar, but the topic is different. Or it could adapt it to make it, if you kind of change the age group of your learners, or whether they're adult learners as opposed to younger learners, it can adapt it and make it more suitable for those learners. So that's quite an interesting thing to try. The other thing it can do is if you have students with specific learning needs, visual impairments, hearing impairments, it can make suggestions for how you can use it with those students as well. We'll just try attention deficit disorder, and we'll regenerate it and see how that changes it. So if you do have classrooms where you have students who have a range of neurodiversities, you can actually adapt materials to suit them as well. He said optimistically, oh, yeah, that's coming out. Okay, so now I've got the text here again. And at the bottom, it tells me what adaptations it's made again. Okay, and again, I can export that if I want to. Okay, one thing I could do if if we're interested in really testing this, I'm going to take this one. Actually, I should have taken the last one. I'm not sure if it will work with the adapted one, but I've adapted this and I've said that it's C2 level. So now I'm going to go back to the CEFR checker and see if it still says it's C2 level. This is going to be a difficult test for it because I have adapted it for ADHD, but we'll click on generate. I can see Jada's biting her lip now to see if it gets it right. Sorry, Jada, didn't mean to put you through this. Okay.
No, no worries.
Overall, okay, it's come out C1 1.2, so it's pretty close. Yeah, and maybe without that adaptation that I just made for ADHD, I would have gotten it right. Okay, so that's basically how these two generators work. They're really very, very simple to use, very quick to use, and pretty close to the mark, I think, in terms of what they're delivering there, especially for level and for adaptation, and all that's kind of very useful stuff.
So again, a big welcome, a big thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and we hope to connect with you all again very soon. Thank you very much, Nik.
Okay, thanks very much. Enjoy.
Thanks. Bye-bye.